Hi and welcome to NET Vaper Reviews. Today's review is the Smok Fetch with the RBA Coil. I've been using this RBA Coil now for nearly 2 weeks, and I must tell you it's an excellent flavor. But I took out the coil that came with it. That wasn't good at all. I felt the flavor was very bland. So I took out that coil and I put in a 0.8 fuse Clapton coil from Coiling, and that made a huge difference. It's not really a mouth to lung, it's more of a direct to lung, but the flavor is like rebuildable. It's not as good as my top RTAs, but for such a small device on 20 watts, it comes up as a 0.6 ohm coil. I think it's because I undone one wrap. In order to get it spaced, you need to space out the coil because you can't fire it for hotspots because there's no pin, a 510 pin. Although by the time you watch this review, they're already selling a converter, a 510 converter for this RBA, and one can fire it to eliminate hotspots. You must excuse my voice, I'm suffering from a cold, so hopefully you hear me clear. But in order to get this coil working, you need to separate if you take out this coil, first of all, you need to get, so what I've done is, you see, this is quite tight. So you'll get hotspots. So you need to fire it first, prime it. So what I did is I undone one wrap, and in the same time I separated on my coil tool, so it became spaced out, so I wouldn't have a problem with hotspots. And it's been working marvelously. But I decided, because I want to change now the cotton, I decided to do it on camera. So like this, you can see yourself the coil and how I wick it, and then we'll refill the tank because it's nearly empty. And we'll see how, and we can talk about the flavor a bit more. So I'll just re-angle the camera. And that's the way you get it, the box. And in the box you get, this is the old coil that I had in there. I didn't want to waste it. This is a 0.8 ohm coil, stock coil, so I decided not to throw it out. You get a screwdriver, you get some O-rings, and you get a little white part here that I'm not quite sure what it's for. And you get a screw that goes on the coil. I'll show you in a minute. This screw here that goes on the base of the coil. Now this is the old coil, this is the coil that came with the device. It's a round wire, but the flavor wasn't good at all. But as you can see, it's spaced out, and it wasn't very difficult to recoil. So let me show you what I've done. So this is the coil. Now it's a bit of liquid in there left, but it's very little left. So instead of refilling the pods, I decided that I'll just put here tissue. I'll recoil it, re-wick it rather. So let's pull this out. And let me drain this tank. And I'll put it for now over here. wipe off this coil, and then we can go through it. Okay, so this is the way the coil comes. So the chimney is the actual top part, and this is my coil. Now the problem is that you can't really wash it because I can't dry it properly afterwards. But what I'm going to do is I'll try and clean the coil as much as I can without damaging it. So I'll take out the old wick, and I must tell you, it's been wicking marvelously. Never had a dry hit, and the flavor is very good for such a small coil, a small device. The coil is a normal coil, a 0.8 fuse Clapton. Yeah, you can see the wick has had its time. Now I wish I could have fired it a bit to get rid of all the rubbish, but I can't. So the only way I can do this is really to work with what I've got. I would have washed it now in water, but I don't think it will do any good. Because I can't fire it afterwards to dry it out properly, and I don't think I'll be able to clean it either. The only way to clean it is really by firing it and burning off all the gunk. This is one major problem. So, I mean, if I will get it's a 510 adapter, that will solve the problem. Okay, anyway, I can't clean it any more than what I'm doing now with a tissue. But you can see the coil, how it's spaced out. I spaced it out myself, and it seems to be working perfectly. Right, let me maybe just, I'll use this tool here just to make sure it's straight. It's very easy to coil. You just open these two screws. You hold the coil with one hand. I tend to hold it with my left hand, so I get the coil legs underneath the screws, hold it in one hand, and screw it with the other hand, and then just straighten it out. But I suppose this coil will have a shorter lifespan because I can't clean it properly. So whenever it gets really gunked up, I'm going to have to throw it out and put a new one. I use this device only in my travels, so hopefully I wouldn't have to change this coil very often. But this is one big problem with this device. Let me try and see which one is a better size. I think we'll go for this one. This is a big problem with this one because you can't really clean the coil unless you get the adapter. I think it's a must to get this adapter. Otherwise, you'll just end up throwing out your coils much quicker than you would have done on a normal RTA. To actually put in the coil didn't take me long at all. It is flimsy, but it's not bad. I mean, you can see the cotton is already dirty by the gunk that's on the coil already. There's not much I can do about it. Now the guidance where to cut your cotton is the red O-ring. That's more or less the bottom of the juice well. So I'll make a dent and snip. It's a bit flimsy, but manageable. Well, I suppose I can cut this now more or less the same size. Yep. Now I want to thin it out a bit because the juice wells are very small, tiny. Now when I trim it, I will always trim it sideways. Not you mean trimming it on the sides rather than the top, because then you disturb the whole you know, the wick wouldn't be. I'll explain that in a minute. 1 minute. Let me just. So what I do is I spread it out width, and then I will cut. So instead of cutting the top, I cut the sides. So you trim it from the sides, so you don't disturb the mound. If you cut it from the top, you'll have cut. It wouldn't be symmetrical. So you always cut it sideways. Yeah, it is a bit flimsy, but not too bad. Right, let's now tuck in the wick. I think I'll trim it a bit more. You see, it's so small, this deck, that you really need to trim your wick quite severely. But you can't put in too thin of a wick, because you need the wick to be in the coil, not to have too much space in the coil itself. So you just have to cut the sides where it actually goes into the juice wells. If you want, you can fast forward until I'm done. Right, let me start tucking this in. You don't want to tuck it in forcefully, because then what happens is you get it all, you'll have a condensed wick, not fluffy. And that will be a problem with the wicking. It won't wick as well. So you need really to gently get it into the juice well without actually squeezing it down. It should become like all tight. You want it to stay fluffy. This is a bit of a problem when you just taken out a wick and you can't really dry it, fire it up to dry it. It's a bit wet from the previous liquid. But you can see now the juice well here. You can see the cotton through on either side. So that's really it for this coil. Yeah, it wasn't too bad. Now I'm going to use Black Note Legato. Very nice Kentucky blend. I have a review on it I've done ages ago on the Black Note. It's a 50-50 VG-PG, but I've used here 70 VG as well, no problem. Shame I can't fire it to clean it, but until I get that adapter, I could only work with what I've got. Okay, so that's done. Now I'll just give this a clean quickly, and we'll re-angle the camera. I'm going to talk about it a bit more. See, these are the O-rings that they give you, the spare ones, and the big round one as well, another one. This white piece, I'm not sure what it's for. I'm not sure what it's for. This is the screw. I assume they give you a spare one where the contact is. That's the spare screw there. Let's mount this together. You have to be careful when you do the coil to cut your coils right flush, because if it touches this chimney, you get a short immediately. Okay, so this is really the coil done. Put it back in here. And now comes the tricky part for me, is to fill up the juice, because this is so, it's not easy to do, but I managed now. We'll fill up the port, the tank I mean. You have to hold it in a slant to manage to fill it up properly. Okay, I think this is full. You're about to get a bit of a mess with this type of mechanism of filling up the tank. I wish they had a better one, but you always have to have tissues handy or some cloth, because you can't really avoid spillage if you really want to fill up your tank fully. But I think it's all done. And let's put it back in. And let's see what it's, yep, 0.72. And that was a 0.8 coil. Where's the coils? This one here. It's a very good coil. Okay, let's re-angle the camera now. Right. This wasn't easy, because for me to do to do such close up is not easy. Let me just have a drink. Okay, so I've got in here the 0.8 fuse Clapton, freshly wicked. I couldn't clean the coil, as you can see, but I hope it lasts me as long as the other coils, because the other coils last me a really long time, because I clean them, I burn off all the gunk off it and renew it. I can't do it. So the flavor is very good flavor. For such a small device, it's much better than the 0.4 mesh, and the 0.4 mesh is an excellent coil. But since this is a fuse Clapton rebuildable, the flavor is more defined. And I don't know what will last longer, this coil or the mesh, but I assume this will last longer, because this is, end of the day, a rebuildable coil. And you just have to re-wick every once in a while. I re-wicked now because the flavor was already becoming a bit too bland. Terrible cold. Anyway, so this is the Smok Fetch Pod Kit with the 0.8 fuse Clapton mesh coil, fuse Clapton coil, and I must tell you, the flavor is superb. There was no leaks. It's completely dry. I'm very happy with this device, especially to what I need it for my travels. I take it with me on air travel, long journeys, meetings, anywhere where I don't want a big device. I want a stealthy little device, but still a rebuildable coil in it. To be honest, the mesh coil is perfectly adequate. The 0.4 or the 0.8 or the one. All the RPM coils are superb. But at the end of the day, the flavor on this rebuildable is better than the mesh. And I assume it will also last longer, but it's fiddly. So if you're not very fussy about this little bit of a difference in the flavor, I really suggest you use the mesh coils and just take one out when it's finished and just put a new one in. They're not so expensive these days. But if you do like your rebuildables, I do like my rebuildables, then it's worth going through the little hassle of wicking every once in a while, and you get a brand new, fresh flavor of your liquid. But the coil will not last as long as an other RTA where you can fire it and clean it properly. Here you can't do that. I would have washed it under the tap, but then it takes time to dry, and I wanted to do this review. So maybe next time I will wash it and we'll see what happens. The flavor is very, very good, I must say. Very good indeed. I can't really do a mouse too long. Let me try. You could, but it's very airy, very. So I tend to do a direct to long, but it's not a direct to long like a sub-ohm tank. It's more direct to long on a mouse to long device. If you understand what I'm trying to say, you're not getting as much vapor as you will get on a sub-ohm or an RTA. It's more of a mouse to long RTA, but with a direct to long draw. Yeah, flavor is superb, I must say, and the device itself is a lovely device. I enjoy it very much, and it's perfect to what I need, and that's why I bought it. It's perfect to what I need. Okay, until the next review, take care, enjoy your vape. Bye bye for now.